So you're trying to decide between Squarespace and WordPress. Maybe you're already on one of the platforms and you're looking to switch, or maybe you're just starting out with your blog and your website and you're wondering, do I pick Squarespace with all their marketing and their Super Bowl ads and, their very fancy, elegant looking website and ads, or do I pick WordPress that's been around the block for a long time but kind of seems a little clunky and isn't that old news? In this video, I'm going to go over 5 reasons with a bonus at the end of why you should pick WordPress instead of Squarespace for your website. So, without further ado, my name is Jeremiah with Siberian Web Studio, helping you master your website. Let's get into top 5 reasons you should use WordPress instead of Squarespace. Number 1, you'll own the platform. Now, this is starting to be a bigger and bigger deal as platforms start to decide what can and cannot exist on their site or on their platform. Now, this is typically a bigger deal when it comes to things like YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and somebody's got something that's maybe controversial or maybe a little bit taboo, and they want to talk about it and kind of find their tribe to talk about this issue, but the platform decides, we're not having any of that. With Squarespace, this can be a problem because you're on Squarespace's servers and you're on their platform and you just don't have control in that manner. Whereas with WordPress, you have full control over your website. You can move from different hosting platforms. You could even host the website yourself if you choose to. I mean, that would be a little bit more of a pain in the neck, but if you had some controversial subject that you wanted to talk about and you wanted to talk about it on the internet, then you could do that with WordPress. With Squarespace, your site might just get deleted one day without you even knowing that it's going to happen. So that's a big reason why you should use WordPress instead of Squarespace. Now, can this happen to anybody? Yeah, it can certainly happen to anybody, but it's more so those who are on the controversial side of things. So, maybe it doesn't matter to you, but maybe the other reasons might just push you over to WordPress. Second reason you should use WordPress is you can download backups. Now, this is just mind-blowing to me, and it's something that most people don't think about when they're starting their website. But with website building platforms, you're usually stuck on their platform unless you copy and paste everything and move to another platform. So this means if you want to go from Squarespace to WordPress, it's kind of a pain. You can import some of the stuff. If you want to move from Wix to Squarespace, it's kind of a pain. You got to copy and paste everything. Only so much stuff imports. Whereas with WordPress, you are given the ability to move hosting platforms, to change themes, change plugins, all while your content is still there. Now, this could be a point of contention for some. If you really want to change platforms, then you got to do that. But the ability to download a backup of your website is huge in my opinion. Now, while I trust Squarespace is going to keep my website safe, what happens if somebody hacks into my backend or gets access to my login credentials and deletes everything off my Squarespace site? I don't believe that they have a contingency plan for if that were to happen, because as far as I know, they don't keep any backups of our website. You can't say, I want to go to this version from last Sunday, and because I made some changes and I decided I didn't like those changes. Whereas with a good quality WordPress host such as SiteGround, you can download backups. In fact, SiteGround creates a backup every single day so that in case anything happens, you can just put your backup back up and you are live again. I think this is a big deal for security and for peace of mind to know that you have backups available to you and that you can download them off-site and offline if needed to, whereas Squarespace just does not have that functionality. The number 3 reason why you might want to use WordPress is you can have a temporary site. We call this a staging site. As long as you have a good quality host, like I talk about in my other video of the biggest mistakes that WordPress noobs make, is you'll have a good quality host that offers staging for your site, which means you have your live version and then you have a clone of it that lives off here on the side, and you can make all the changes you want over here without affecting your live site so visitors can still see it. And then when you're done with the staging or the clone of the site that you've made changes to, you can push that to the live site, and then without a hiccup, your users are experiencing the new site. Now, Squarespace doesn't offer anything like this. If you want to make changes to your Squarespace site, you either have to duplicate the page, make all your changes, and then change the URL structure, make sure everything's just right. Otherwise, it's gonna be kind of weird. Or you have to make changes while the site is in like a hidden mode with password protected, which is kind of lame if you have a website with a lot of visitors and you don't want to interrupt the flow of visitors, and then you're stuck updating the site in the middle of the night when nobody's on it. And what happens if you have a worldwide website where people are on it all day long? Then you're stuck turning your website off in order to make minor little tweaks or little design changes. This is something that I wish Squarespace would just implement already, but alas, they haven't. They've put their time and energy on other things. And I don't know if it'll ever happen. I hope it does for the Squarespace users, but until then, I'm definitely sticking to WordPress for the fact that I can create a staging site, make all sorts of crazy changes to it, and then push the thing live without a hiccup in my live site. That's a big reason why you might want to switch to WordPress. Number 4, WordPress allows modular systems that can grow with your business. Now, if you're new to WordPress and you don't understand what I'm saying, the best way I can show you is on my website, SeverianWebStudio.com. I've got call to actions, or CTAs as they call them in the website lingo business. It's got a spot for you to take an action. You sign up for my email list or get on a 20-minute free consult call with me, and I can change those things out so that if you're on a blog article about something specific, maybe you're on a blog article about WordPress, I have something that says, get a free 20-minute consult for your WordPress blog. Whereas if you're on a Squarespace article, I could say, get a free 20-minute consult for your Squarespace article. And those things I can change in one place, just one sole place in WordPress, and then it updates all across where I want it to on all those pages. And this is the power of PHP, which is the programming language behind WordPress. And you just don't get that with Squarespace. There is no modularity in like, I want this to show up in every single post except for these ones, or at the top of every page I want this to show up. The best you have for that is a top pop-up navigation, or a top of a marketing kind of in your face, hey, look at me, sign up for our email list, which is also possible in WordPress. But if you are looking for something to be able to change with the season, or maybe as your business grows and you have different offerings or different courses to offer, then it's kind of nice to be able to just change it in one location and then it's changed everywhere else. Whereas in Squarespace, you got to copy and paste everything and make sure you get it in every place, and it's a lot of manual work copying and pasting. It can be done, but it's a little bit of a pain. And now for number 5, and don't forget that there's a bonus at the end here. Number 5 is that WordPress is open source. Now, there's a wide range of benefits to having an open source software. The biggest thing being that anybody can work on it. And there are people all over the world working to make WordPress better, working to make plugins better for it or themes better. And it allows this big ecosystem of developers all around the world to help maintain and build it. Now, on the flip side of this, Squarespace is a for-profit corporation that's on Wall Street. Their number one motive is to increase their profit share for shareholders. Unfortunately, that's how their business is run. Whereas WordPress is set up to be open source for anybody to work on, and there are businesses and companies that have been created on top of WordPress. There's a few of them that have made their money creating specific plugins that are premium or themes that are premium, and they're able to kind of work off of this system. Now, in my opinion, I would rather have a ecosystem that is developed on making the product better for the users than making the product better for shareholders. Now, don't get me wrong, Squarespace does a good job of making their product better for users, but there are times where I go, why did they do that? Like, for example, they recently released a new block editor called the Fluid Engine. And this is something they've been working on for a while, I suppose, and was in beta for a few months, and then they pushed it out to everybody, and they still haven't fixed their page speed. They still haven't fixed the fact that most of their websites do not pass Core Web Vitals, which is a metric that Google is very highly considering when they look at your overall SEO and whether or not they should rank you higher or lower. I think that this is a problem. I think that Squarespace should get their stuff together and should make their websites load faster, because it's 21st century and people should be able to load their stuff fast even if they have a poor internet connection. We're not all in big cities where there's 5G and fiber internet. There are a lot of people who are still on rural internet. Maybe they haven't got Starlink yet, and having a slow website is very noticeable to them. Or maybe even somebody's on a weak Wi-Fi signal at the end of their house. all this to say that I think that Squarespace has a different motive now. With how much money they're spending on TV ads and how much emphasis they're putting on increasing their bottom dollar, raising their prices. Yes, everybody's raising their prices, but I just fear that they aren't going to care about the end users, the designers, the people behind the platforms as much as they're going to care about the new sign up that they get. That's my 2 cents on it. That's why I think having an open source platform like WordPress is game changer. It's somewhat like Linux, if you've ever heard of that operating system. It's a huge ecosystem. The people who are in there are super passionate. I mean, if you meet a WordPress developer, somebody who's developing themes or plugins, they're extremely passionate about what they do. And that's who I want working on my website. That's who I want helping to increase the usability and accessibility of the platform that I use. And with that comes, a little bit of a pitfall, right? Maybe there's some things that aren't designed or kept as well as they could be, but that's where you would look at reviews and, see what people are saying, if it's reputable or not, and you can make a judgment call from that. If you want to cut to the chase and become a master of WordPress and get on-ramped, as I would say, to WordPress, then be sure to download my cheat sheet below, which is the WordPress on-ramp, and it'll help you navigate the world of WordPress and all this mumbo jumbo and help you get a bigger picture of how your WordPress site would be set up, and hopefully you'll avoid some of the pitfalls that many WordPress noobs make along the way. Now, I didn't forget that I said that there was an extra bonus tip. So for your bonus tip, I want to say this. The Gutenberg block editor is finally worth using in WordPress. Now, if you don't know what that is, let me explain. A few years ago, WordPress revealed the Gutenberg block editor, and it's supposed to be revolutionary, like the Gutenberg press was for books. And it was kind of met with a bunch of groans because it was kind of pushed a little bit sooner than maybe it was ready for, and it was a little buggy and people just didn't like it. We were set in our ways. I personally did not. I despised it. I refused to use it. However, fast forward to a few years later, and now it's actually really functional, and I use it on all my sites that I develop and that I create for my clients and for myself. And with Gutenberg, it makes it seem a lot more like Squarespace. It's where you grab things and you drag them around and you have a little bit more control over it, and it's actually worth using. So that, to me, is a good reason for you to use WordPress versus some of these other what you see is what you get builders like Squarespace, because Gutenberg has finally gotten up to snuff and kind of can compete with Squarespace. So that concludes my 5 reasons why you should use WordPress instead of Squarespace, plus a bonus. And if you have any questions about WordPress, Squarespace, be sure to leave a comment down below. Be sure to download the on-ramp cheat sheet if you need help getting started with WordPress. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.